Good evening, everyone. It's late today. It's been a little crazy. It's going to be quite crazy in the upcoming days, weeks. That's partly what I want to talk about today, because I want to talk about the necessity of filling your own cup. And I think we all know that's something that we've been hearing much more lately. And I know we all know it. Just last week, I wrote a blog post on self-care for writers, and to get some inspiration, and also because I know that every writer has their own self-care ritual. So I would say that there are as many self ways of doing self-care as there are writers. So I thought, let's just ask, my writer friends, and also my clients, like, what do they do? What do they do to take care of themselves? And one of the people that contacted me, or commented on the post that I wrote for one of my in one of my writing communities, they recently wrote a post themselves, um, about self-care, and in that particular blog post, they refer to the thing you always hear in the when you go on holiday, or when you don't always take a plane to go on a holiday, but you know what I mean. Like, when you're in the plane, they'll always tell you, it's not selfish to first take care of your own oxygen before you help others, even if the other person is your child. Um, and they have to tell us that, because we're so used, and I would say especially women are so used, or we're brought up that way, that we have to tend to others first before we tend to our own needs. And that is why every time you are in an aircraft, they will remind you, don't do this. It's absolutely vital that you take care of your own oxygen first before you put the mask on somebody else, before you help somebody else out. Um, and that is, of course, exactly what this whole filling your cup is about. It's about the necessity to take care of your own needs, because if your needs are met, you are much more capable of taking care of other people's needs. If you're depleted, you won't be at your best self. So if you're constantly running after the facts, yeah, you might get a lot of things done, but it won't be, the quality might not be the same, your mindset might not be the same, the energy you're emitting might not be the same. So it's always better to fill your own cup first, even if that sounds very counterintuitive, because I would say it is very intuitive to fill your own cup first, but society has taught us that that's not how we do things. You take care of others first. It's very selfish to think of yourself first. So this is one of the things that I think is important to continuously stress, that we do need that. We do need to look at our own needs. And why is this important for writers? I would say it's important for writers because one of the things that, like, not just writers, but everyone who's creative, what we do, like what we have inspiration, we have a muse. And if you're constantly depleting yourself by giving to others while not taking care of your own needs, where's inspiration supposed to be coming from? Like, what is the muse supposed to feed on if you're not constantly looking after yourself? If you don't have the energy, um, because you're giving all your energy away, how are you going to be inspired and write a really good novel that you want to write, or write that really critical piece you want to write on this issue that's going on, that's really close to your heart? How are you going to get that brain space to actually write that? So that is one of the things that I see happen a lot, is that we can write, but it's and we have to write. Like, I think writing is actually one of the things, for me anyway, that fills my cups, and I would say it is for a lot of writers, because otherwise don't write. But before we are able to actually, I would say that we can write. No, I was going to say, before we can write, we have to have that cup filled. But I do think a lot of us can write depleted and without the proper energy. But is that the best writing we can deliver? Or will our writing improve our plots, our characters, the layers of our worlds? Will they improve once we have taken care of our own needs? I would say definitely. definitely the writing. The same as that, when you take care of yourself first, you're better able to care for for others, for the people around you. If you're able to take care of your own needs, I think your writing will definitely improve. I think you'll be much more inspired because you have the brain space for inspiration to hit. You have the calm and the peace and the quiet for inspiration to hit. For myself as well, like when I'm constantly running and when I'm constantly working, and that's been my life recently, it becomes very difficult if you're just, I've been on a deadline. I've been on multiple deadlines, and also for writing. I'm currently co-writing, and we have a production schedule. So for me, it was very important to hit that, because then, if I'm done with my round, my co-author gets it, and then she can move on. She can move on with her part of the job. So it's very important that we keep each other accountable and also keep our deadlines. But if it's just about making the deadlines, it becomes very difficult for me to have the brain space to actually see what I'm writing and, be hit by that moment of inspiration. And it's funny that, and I'm sure this is very familiar, that the moment you take a break from whatever you're doing, that is often when that moment hits. So for example, I get my best ideas in the shower. That's a big thing for me. And I do know they sell these writer note blocks that you can put up in the shower. Like they do sell those, the waterproof paper that you can write on while you're in the shower. So I don't necessarily think it's universal, but it's universal enough that people understand the need for post-its that can last in a shower. But another thing is, so for me, writing inspiration, like when I'm stuck in a scene, that often comes to me when I'm driving or when I'm in the shower. But project-based stuff, that often comes off me while I'm cleaning the house. I don't know why those two are separate, but that is often what happens. And it's because your brain gets the break. That is the moment your brain has a break, that is when inspiration hits. So this is one of the, and of course, like when I say, fill your own cup, I mean, doing the dishes, not necessarily filling your own cup. I'm just talking about a little break here. But imagine if you can hit by inspiration when you're doing something like a chore. Like, imagine what could happen if you really take a proper break to fill your own cup. Imagine what could happen to your writing and to the characters you write and to the story you're plotting or the argument you want to bring across if you take that proper break and take the necessary care of yourself. Imagine if just taking a shower is often enough to get you that of course this is because my character needs to do this and this and then this, and oh, this is how I can connect the dots. If that happens with a simple shower, imagine what happens if you take care of yourself on a daily basis. That's just, it's gotta make you more inspired. So interesting for me at the moment, because this is another thing, is that we all have different things that fill our cups. And so this is actually why I asked like my clients and my coaching clients and my writing buddies, like, so what do you do, like, to take care of yourself? Because the ways I take care of myself do not necessarily work for others. So it's like I can write this blog post, but it will be very helpful if I have input from other people, because for different people, different things work. So now I basically have this. I have this list. It's very subjective, because I've read other posts, like Jamie's post. Jamie mentions completely different things as well. Like there's overlap, but there are also different things, and that's fine, because it's just you ask different people, you get different answers. It's just to get inspired. And that's why it's very important to understand for yourself what fills your cup. And also not just what fills your cup, but how often do you need to do that particular thing to get your cup refilled. For example, last week I had a spa day. So I went to the sauna, with all the big baths and the steam cabins and everything. And I just spent a whole day just relaxing, sweating it out. I don't do that a lot. Like I think the last time I did that was probably, and I do this I should do this more often because it's very invigorating for me. Um, but I have a workaholic tendency, and I'm working on it, which is really fun. Talking about self-care has been absolutely fun for me because that's not my strong suit. So in talking about it, I'm also trying to teach myself to do it better. Um, but so I do this not that often, and I might have to do it more often. But I also know people who do that like every 2 weeks. They just need it more often than I do, which is fine. You just need to know what works for you and how often you need it. Sometimes all you need to do to energize yourself is just meet that certain friend and have a cup of tea together, and then you're good to go for another week. Different people have different needs. And context, and this is the other thing I want to talk about, especially in my to refer to my personal context, is that you also need to know when you need what to fill your own cup. So, for example, writing for me, if I don't write often enough, that my brain doesn't like that. It needs to. It just needs to write. Like if I don't. It also depends on the project. For example, I haven't touched my young adult fantasy project since last summer because I've been writing the romance, the co-writing project. I've been working on that, and just recently, and I try not to stress about that. I know people are always pushing you to write faster and publish faster. I'm not really stressing about that. And just like 2 weeks ago or something, I was doing something mundane, probably shower, maybe brushing my teeth is another one for me. And I just thought of something that I could add to my first book. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So my other project is knocking at the door. So apparently it's becoming time to get back into that. That's good to know. And then the week after, so last week, out of the blue, something came up for my second book in the series. And I was like, oh, so that is very interesting. So this project is basically trying to get my attention, like trying to get me to think about it again. So I tend to trust that. I tend to trust that a lot. But it's funny in this regard. Because I've been writing this I've been working on this author project, and I've also in the last couple months, 2 months or so, me and my co-writer Sheena, we've been talking about do we continue this writing or do we take a break after finishing the first trilogy? We're building a whole romance world, so do we take a break after this first trilogy so that we can go back to our respective projects? And she's also been feeling the pull from her other, like she writes LGBTQIA plus plus plus, you know, the whole acronym. She writes that through a Canadian rural lens. And it's like I'm her editor, so I know it's going to be a wonderful novel. But she also felt that pull. So to get back to what I was originally saying, because this is one of my impromptu, like I didn't prepare for this talk at all. I was just like, oh, it's evening, I need to do a live. So I knew what I was going to talk about, but I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about. So if I don't finish some of my thoughts, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to finish it later. But my point is that you need to know and you need to trust that. You need to trust that you know what's right for you when, in what context. So like I said, writing for me, that is absolutely something that fills my cup. And like the writing the romance, that sort of, how do I say that? That feeds another part of my soul, but this young adult urban fantasy project, that feeds a completely other. Like that is my big project. That's, if I just get that published, like that trilogy, I'd be happy with my writing career, because that is the story. That's really like the story that's in my bones that I really need to tell. So you have to trust in your God, like what you need to do when. But for me right now, even though that other story is like knocking at my door, and I actually finished the second, how it's a little bit fun, the second draft of the third book in the first trilogy. Yeah, you got it? Second draft, third book, first trilogy. I actually finished it last night and sent it back to my co-author, so she can look it over and we can send it to the beta readers. Even though the other story is knocking and trying to get my attention, and that's been I've been like I'm moving in 10 days actually, so my office looks like an absolute disaster right now. It's like something exploded in here. And I've also, one of the things that I've been going through is my research. So I have this big box of research for my novel, and I've been wondering, what do I do with that? Like, do I send it? Do I send it? Can I leave it behind? What do I need? So I've been picking out the things that I need to continue writing as I'm abroad. So that also sort of made me like reread little things. I was like, oh yeah, so the sort of the interest in going back to that particular project, that is growing again. But right now I also feel like I try to write every night. That was my plan. I started that in October and I've mostly kept to it. It's one of the reasons I started my accountability group, also to keep myself accountable. But right now what I need is not to, have that one project finish and then immediately go back to my young adult urban fantasy project. What I need right now is really, like, when I look around me and I see all the half cleared cabinets and all the stuff I need to get away and all the stuff I'm still selling, all the deadlines I still have. Like, I still have a few projects that I need finished before the 28th. I just realized this morning, like, I can sit behind that computer tonight and try to write, but that is not going to be in my best, that's not going to be in my best interest. So for the next couple of days, maybe 2 weeks even, unless inspiration strikes, and then I will write. Like, I won't deny inspiration. Like, when the muse comes knocking, you answer that door. Like, you don't not, like, that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. You don't ignore that call, you do it. But for now, I'm trying to, instead of becoming, I can be real, and I'm sure this is familiar. I can be very nasty about not writing. Like, I can be really, really mean to myself when I'm not writing. And this morning I was just like, I need to like be cool with this and just, every night there's so many things that I still need to do before I leave. I think it's best if I invest my writing time in just finishing all my little editing projects, getting some boxes packed, dropping stuff off at my friends. Just, make sure that I go through my to-do list instead of pushing myself to write every day. That was fun. And sometimes, like, if you are, some people are inclined to more laziness than I am. If you need to kick yourself in the butt to keep writing, sure. But if you are more like me, you have a more workaholic tendency, the best thing for me right now is to not take this one thing that usually fills my cup, but acknowledge that if I were to continue to write every day, every night, for the next 10 days, 14 days, that would actually be very counterproductive and not that good for my sanity. Because I need that time to do other things so that I don't constantly freak out about all the things that I need to do. It's just, it's embracing the fact that moving is a stressful situation and that moving abroad is even more stressful, and that there will be goodbye parties, and they will be making decisions about what can I take and what can I not take, and what do I do with all that stuff? Where do I leave it? Do I throw it out? Do I put it in, do I leave it at my family's? Like, what do I do? And I was really, I felt that I could, what happens to me then is I can get completely stuck in my head, and my breathing becomes very, very, very high. And I just realized, the moment I told myself, it's okay, you don't need to write. Like, if you feel like it, you can write, but you don't need to write every night. Like, my whole mindset was like, I looked at my office and I was like, yeah, I can pull this off. I have 10 days left. I'm going to do this. This is not going to be a problem. And it's just because a little mindset shift that writing is not always what fills my cup. Right now, not writing is what fills my cup. It's allowing myself to do everything I need to do at a much slower pace so I don't get burnout before I actually leave the country. So that is something to think about. That's all I have to say about that. Just if you wanna dig a little deeper here, what you could think about is first of all, so like what I said before, two things you can do here. If this whole filling your own cup eludes you, like if you're not 100% sure yet, or you're not really aware of what you need when, try to write it down for yourself. Like, so what are the things that really energize you? And as I said, that is different for different people. If you're an introvert and you've been around too many people for too many days in a row, what will energize you is like slamming that door shut and not seeing people for a while. If you're an extrovert, the thing that can deplete you is not being around people. So you need to go out and spend some time with your friends. Very much depends on who you are as a person, what you need when. But I would say it's very productive and fruitful to take a few minutes to think about what it is that makes you energized, gives you your energy back, and also how often then do you need it, and when does what work? Because even though you think you know what you need, sometimes that can be absolutely counterproductive to what you actually need at a time, as is the case with writing for me right now. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I'll talk to you next week. Have a good week.